Now, Sports Talk with Brodes. Here's Hunter Brody.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome to Sports Talk with Brodes. We are broadcasting live from the Manscaped Man Cave. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code BROD at manscaped.com. It's a football Friday. It feels like it's been forever, but we are finally here. It's a football Friday. The Philadelphia Eagles are heading to New York. They're going right up the turnpike to try and find another victory and to secure a 4-4-1 record. Will they do it? Well, that is a phenomenal question, and only time will tell. But if you want to look optimistically at this squad, they are getting back a ton of players. Miles Sanders, Alshon Jeffrey, Isaac Seumalo, Malik Jackson, Jack Driscoll, Lane Johnson right now. You would hope that he's available to play, but we had Adam Kaplan on Football at 4 and on 97.3 ESPN. This was on Thursday's show, and he said, realistically, Lane Johnson is questionable right now. And I guess it is possible because let's be realistic with Lane Johnson. He continues to play on that ankle, which resulted in the knee injury. And at some point, you got to give the guy rest. He continues to play through all of these painful injuries, all of these scenarios. And the more and more you do that, you're not giving yourself enough time to heal. Now, he didn't play the last game, and he had a full bye week as well. But I guess there is a discussion going on that, hey, if you give him another week, will it be better for the long run? So something to just think about when it comes to Lane Johnson. We will see an injury report on Friday. We will see an injury report, obviously, as the game gets closer, and you'll know when it comes to game time what's happening. I would be okay with letting Lane Johnson sit if it means, hey, let's look at the big picture, because you do have Mailata, who can play right tackle. You do have Jack Driscoll, who can play right tackle. So now that you're getting bodies back, it's not as much of a blow if something was to go wrong with, let's say, Mailata or something of that nature. Now, let's say, hypothetically, because this totally can happen, Lane Johnson not available, or he does play, and then at some point he needs to leave due to having discomfort, and Jason Peters goes down with an injury or needs to take a little bit of a break. You can have Mailata play left tackle, Jack Driscoll play right tackle. Now that bodies are there, it changes the identity of the offensive line, one. And on top of that, if things were to happen to some of these players who are on the line and starting, you have replacements that make way more sense compared to the alternative, which was Brown, Opeta, and a bunch of bums. Even Matt Pryor has been horrific in the limited amount of time that he had. But getting Isaac Seumalo back would be huge. You're now talking, let's say the top players do play and the linemen that we expect to be the starters are going to play. That's Jason Peters, Isaac Seumalo, Jason Kelsey, Herbig, and Lane Johnson. Let's say they rock and roll with that type of lineup. That is arguably the best lineup you have seen so far this season. Now, it's once again another new line, and that has been a common theme for this team every single damn week. There is a new identity up front, but this would arguably be the best that you have. The best that you have had all season long, and Miles Sanders being back in the mix. How does this impact the run game and how Doug Pederson elects to call the game? I'm not going to lie, I definitely need to see more out of Miles Sanders in the passing game as well. And it doesn't necessarily need to be these obnoxious wheel routes and things of that nature, although I wouldn't be mad with that being added into the game plan as well. But even if it's something short or it's a screen game where it's technically a pass, but in the mindset of the call, it's, hey, let's get your running back the ball and you can let him operate in space. I want to see more of that. Now, there seems to be a disconnect between Carson Wentz and Miles Sanders in the passing game. That needs to get figured out. Whether it's Carson Wentz putting the ball in an area that doesn't lead Miles Sanders, or it's Miles Sanders dropping a pass that he should have made. Those two have not been on the same page in the passing game, and that has to get fixed. That is now eliminating something that Miles Sanders can do effectively, and that could change the outcome of games. Imagine a running back who has the power and who is lethal enough to be a game changer in the passing game and not being able to utilize that skill set. Some of that goes on Carson and Miles together. Some of that goes on Doug Pederson and the game plan. So there's a lot to factor in. Everything with this team, I hate to break it to people. I know you want it to be easy and you want it to be simple and you want the answer to be a very obvious one, but it's not. It's not black and white. The reason why this team is where they are is not as simple as this. This is the reason. There's 10 billion reasons why the team is really where they are right now. It's not a simple answer. There's so many heavy factors involved, from poor quarterback play to poor coaching in-game decision, poor coaching before the game even starts from a preparation standpoint, injuries, you name it, not being focused. There's so many things. That has to change heading up to New York. Because this New York Giants team, while their record might not show it, they battle. They battle. They're tough. They're gritty. They're annoying. They're tough to play against. Once again, their record might not show it. And I know offensively, they don't have this, lethal offense that should scare you. Their defense plays tough. And there's holes. I'm not saying they're a perfect team by any means. But guess what? Joe Judge has this team bought in. The way that they compete, it's going to be a really hard battle. And the Eagles are going to have to be extremely focused to make sure they take that victory back down I-95 when they are driving home Sunday afternoon, late afternoon into the evening. Okay? Let's look at what the Giants have done to this point. And there has been a turning point in terms of, confidence. It hasn't been resulting in a lot of wins, but the way that they are playing football, the Giants have confidence because they are playing better. They're playing as one. They are a unit, and they look at their head coach, and when the head coach speaks, they're listening, and they feel that he is bringing them in the right direction. When Joe Judge is scheming up their game plan, when he has everybody in the meeting rooms via Zoom or whatever the case may be these days in 2020, they look at that head coach, and they say, I believe in you, coach. Let's go. Let's go to war. And that's going to make it intense for the Philadelphia Eagles. So look, they lost 17-9 to the Rams. They lost 37-34 to Dallas. This is when the switch, I feel, was definitely flipped a bit. Right? Their intensity changed a bit when it came to that Washington win. They won 20-19. They won it in the end zone for the most part. Defensively, that is. They had to come up with a stop. They came up with the stop. Ron Rivera wanted to go for two. He wanted to go for the win. Well, the Giants came up big. They got their victory, their first victory of the season. They won 20-19. Then the Giants lost to Philadelphia 22-21. But Evan Ingram definitely had an opportunity to seal the deal. The Eagles made the most of it. Carson Wentz was phenomenal in that fourth quarter, down 21-10. He was awesome. He was electric. Elite throws to Boston Scott. I mean, are you kidding me? The one down the right sideline. He was special, but he was also not special leading up to that point, and he put that team in the position where they had to come back in this crazy way. He finished the deal, don't get me wrong. He had to come up big, and he did, but the reason why he had to come up big was because, well, throughout the beginning parts of the game, he wasn't his strongest. 25-23, they lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That game was super close, and Tampa Bay, even though they got blown out by the New Orleans Saints on Sunday Night Football, they are looked at as a very solid team in this league that's going to be competing deep into the postseason. And then they beat Washington 23-20. Bunch of turnovers by Washington, that is. I think Alex Smith ended up with 3 interceptions after Kyle Allen left the game with that brutal injury. But I bring that up because you look at the scores, and if you watch the way the Giants play, they struggle offensively at times. Daniel Jones makes a bunch of mistakes. He obviously is going to turn the ball over at some point. That's who he is as a quarterback. And you can argue right now, so is Carson Wentz, so it can come down to that turnover battle, which it does realistically every single week. But when you have two quarterbacks that are known and prone to throwing a bunch of interceptions, if you will, and fumbling the football, well, yeah, that conversation definitely should be highlighted and marked down because that does mean a lot to the outcome of the game. But the team is fighting. And they were this close, the Giants were this close of winning the last game against the Philadelphia Eagles. So heading into this game, I do think it's reasonable to be optimistic because you look at these weapons, right? I mentioned the offensive line, but you have Jalen Reagor, Travis Fulgham, Miles Sanders, Dallas Goedert, Greg Ward, John Hightower, Boston Scott, Alshon Jeffrey. You have a bunch of weapons. Now, that doesn't ultimately mean that this offense is going to be cruising with ease. I do think that there are specific spots on the defense that they can target. Look, Logan Ryan is a very nice player for New York. Bradbury, very nice player for New York. But how about opposite side of Bradbury? I almost said Slay. I feel I'm so accustomed to saying the opposite side of Slay when we talk about Avonte Maddox or Roby Coleman or anybody else playing that side. It slipped out. Didn't mean to. I apologize. But on the opposite side of Bradbury, there should be an opportunity for the Eagles to look at that matchup and say, hold on a second, we can do something in the passing game if we attack that. How about Dallas Goedert? Last game, a little underwhelmed with his role, albeit he's coming back from an injury, and we all knew that. We acknowledged that. I thought he would be more of a force in the passing game. This week, you got to have that. You need to be more effective with the tight end position. That's Carson Wentz's safety blanket. That's where he goes when he needs that extra sense of security. You need to get Dallas Goedert operating in the middle of the field and using his versatility, his athleticism. We say it all the time. Zach Ertz, he is great at what he does, but when you look at Dallas Goedert, he could be more of a threat. He could absolutely be more of a dog as a tight end when it comes to the offensive side of the game, when it comes to actually catching the ball and being able to work after the catch. Dallas Goedert is a freak of nature. We got to make sure that we can exploit that matchup and use him heavily in the passing game. You have something there. Take advantage of that matchup. I can't wait to see what Fulgham can do with Jalen Reagor out there as well and mix in a little bit of Alshon. See, I am very frustrated with the whole Alshon story. It doesn't make a lot of sense, and I think it's fair to say that something is happening behind the scenes, and there's a little bit of some, fraudness happening, if you will. There's pictures surfacing, the Twitter sphere of him looking like he's in shape. Look, I'm not buying into it until I see it. Here's what I have been hearing, though. He will be on some sort of limited snap count. He's not going to be taking Travis Fulgham's spot, which is big. But hey, maybe you look to use him in the red zone. Doug Pederson has been very vocal about the red zone not being their best right now, running out of red zone plays. Well, we know what Alshon Jeffrey can provide. Well, at least we knew what he could provide before the injury. This is definitely a different version of Alshon. The Liz Frank injury is no joke, and it is serious, and it's not easy to come back and be the player that you were once in your past. And keep in mind, his age isn't helping him as he has touched that 30 mark. It's a different type of beast when you're coming back from an injury, a significant injury like that at his point in his career. But if you're talking about the red zone area, maybe you can utilize him, put him out there, use him to help out in those moments, because there's no doubt whatever they have been doing isn't good enough and it needs to be cleaned up. They have to do a better job fully from the red zone standpoint. I do think that that's an area that Alshon can help be effective. You know what you're going to get out of Greg Ward. He's just that reliable slot guy. Where I can see this team winning, though, And I mentioned all these offensive players and the help of these offensive players. It's that D-line. And clearly that's what Jim Schwartz utilizes very heavily, and that's the bread and butter of the defense. But when you look at the offensive line for New York, that's been a topic of discussion for how many years now? They don't really have much, okay? And when you look at Fletcher Cox, Hargrave, Malik Jackson coming back, and Malik Jackson has been a legitimate force interior-wise. In the interior of that defensive line, Malik Jackson's name has absolutely popped. We know what type of year Brandon Graham has had to this point. If he's continuing to be the dog that he has been, that defensive line can easily win that matchup, and I feel that is a great area defensively for them to help out this football team. So a couple areas offensively, having their best possible line that they can have would be huge, right? To this point, it's been a new offensive line every game. You get the best version of your offensive line. Even if Lane Johnson isn't available, you could argue if Mailata plays right tackle or Driscoll. That's the thing. I don't know who's going to be playing right tackle. Does Driscoll have the job over Mailata? And Mailata's going to be hanging out on the bench in case Jason Peters needs a break or needs a rest or goes down? Or is Mailata that right tackle and Driscoll's the one that's going to be chilling? Does Driscoll play? That's going to be interesting to see how that right side holds up if Lane Johnson is not available. But even if Lane Johnson isn't, this might be the best version of the line that we have had in quite some time. If you can attack opposite side of Bradbury, if you can use Dallas Goedert more in the passing game, you can do that offensively. And Miles Sanders being back, come on. I mean, utilize the run, use that speed, use that versatility. I am afraid, though, that Miles Sanders isn't going to be able to be the type of player that you need. We looked at him as a 3-down back. He has had injury problems. He has had conditioning problems. And now that he's coming back from being off for a little bit of time, is he going to be full throttle? I guess here's the positives. If he's not, Boston Scott definitely knows how to play against the New York Football Giants. That's the team that he kills. You know, in baseball, when you watch the Phillies, there's always the Mets killers, or there's always someone on the Mets who kills the Phillies, right? There's always that one guy that seems to rake when it comes to playing against the Phillies. Well, with Boston Scott, he's the New York Giants killer. So if Miles Sanders isn't going to be able to give you that full effort because of fatigue or, just not being in football shape based off of coming back from injury, Boston Scott being your alternative in this type of matchup, he always seems to do damage. So there's your positive there. I wonder how they're going to defend Evan Ingram. Alex Singleton, TJ Edwards as your linebacker core. Will Parks, we've been hearing how, he can do work against the tight ends. Will you see that matchup? Will you see Will Parks on an Evan Ingram? Or are you going to try and see some of the linebackers in coverage, whether it's Edwards, Singleton, Duke Riley? I don't know if I really love that. I'd probably take Will Parks over that matchup any day of the week. Give him the opportunity to see if he can do what he needs to do in that scenario. So, this is a game where I feel the Eagles can lose, right? I mean, there's no doubt about it. The Eagles can lose this game. I said after they won their last game against Dallas, when they made it 3-4-1 as their record heading into the bye, you know what? I do not care how it looks. I don't care. It could be another game like the Dallas Cowboys game against the New York Giants. I'm saying, just to clarify right there, because that could be a little confusing, I would take a game that looked like the Eagles versus the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday. I know that sounds crazy, but at this point, I really don't care about who's coming back and what they're going to look like and optimistic because people are returning. I don't view this team as a great football team this year. They are in the bunch with Dallas, with the Giants. They are in the same field as those teams right now. How are they not? They absolutely are. They're a 3-4-1 football team. They're in the same category as those other horrendous squads that are in the NFC East. They are. They're just the best of the shittiest. That's reality. So with that being said, why would I expect a bad football team to just dominate a New York Giants team, which when they played a couple games ago, it was super close and the Eagles squeaked out of it? Some penalties for New York, a missed pass. That easily could have been a Giants victory, and realistically, it should have been a Giants victory. Now, the spread is around 3 for the Birds. On the road, favorites opened up in that 3 range. That tells me, look, if it was Eagles by 1, if it was a pick'em, I'd feel worse. In terms of covering, I don't care. I'm talking about in terms of winning the football game. I don't care what it's like. I don't care what it looks like. My expectations have changed so much since the start of the year. I'm sorry. This is reality. Now, realistically, I'll probably come down and I will record as soon as the game is over. And even if they win at an ugly rate, and even if it looks horrendous, I'll still scream. I'll still holler. I still need an outlet to voice my frustration easily. I'm guaranteeing it. If it looks ugly, I'm still going to rant and holler because I need this. This is my therapy. This is where I get it out. But ultimately, I am keeping myself aware that it's probably going to have some really awful moments that we will rip. Win or lose. Win or lose. But I'm acknowledging, or at least I'm expecting it to be sloppy because to this point, that's all I've seen. And every week we try and convince ourselves, well, because they're getting healthier and because of this and, because they're getting this guy back and that guy back, it should look different. How many times are we going to do that? And look, I hope I'm wrong. I hope it does look different. I hope this offensive line does make a big impact. I hope Travis Fulgham, Jalen Reagor, Miles Sanders, Dallas Goedert, I hope it all changes and it looks beautiful. And it looks so nice. But I don't think that's going to be reality. I think it helps. In theory, there's matchups for the Birds. As much as I've praised New York, and I said that, look, they are playing better as a team, whether they win or not, or whatever the results are, from the eye test and even from statistics-wise, they're playing better football. I still think the Eagles have enough to grind out a victory. It's just not going to be pretty. And at some point, the Giants are due. Now, we have some anytime hotline calls to get to. You left your reactions, actually not your reactions, your previews on how you feel heading into the game. But first, autumn is in the air, and Manscaped is here to ensure you don't carve your pumpkins when you're grooming. By pumpkins, we actually mean your boys downstairs. In fact, Manscaped is on a mission to change the way you approach caring for your balls. And great news, they just released their products in the UK, Canada, and Australia. Look, the Lawnmower 3.0 is tremendous. It offers a ceramic blade, a replaceable ceramic blade, with advanced skin-safe technology which helps reduce grooming accidents. Their new Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer uses the same skin-safe technology when you're trimming those delicate nose hairs of yours. How about the ball deodorant? Everybody knows that pumpkin spice lattes and ball deodorant goes hand in hand. There's body wash, ball wipes, you name it, hair and body wash. These formulations are all vegan, cruelty-free, dye-free, sulfate-free. So you can get 20% off and free shipping with the code BROD at manscaped.com. All of these items, magnificent. I use them all, and you should too. All right, let's kick things off with the Anytime Hotline.
Hey, Brodes. What's up, man? Calling in for your Football Friday. Before I leave my thoughts, I just want to say I 100% agree with you with those comments on Doug Pederson. You are one of the most real Philly sports broadcasters I know, and one of my favorite ones that I love to follow. Keep up the great work. You're doing a great job. I nearly pissed myself multiple times watching that. But, yay.
Thank you so much. Before we continue with the rest of your call, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That is just so kind, and sometimes it blows my mind when I hear comments like that. So once again, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it.
I 100% agree. So, football game Sunday against the Giants. Should be able to win this game. They should. The last game was pretty close. I don't know if they're going to pull this out or not. I feel like because they've gotten healthier, they're getting Sanders back. They're getting Alshon back. And apparently Alshon's in way better shape than he's been in previous years. I don't really know if I buy that yet, but we'll just have to see. We're getting healthier at the perfect time. We're coming off a bye. I think we should win this game, but maybe it'll end up being closer than it should be. But I'm going to say we win by like a field goal, and like it'll be a close game. I think the Giants at the very least like play hard every game. So.
They do. They absolutely do. Now, you mentioned the bye week, and I think that's important. Doug Pederson has not been the strongest after the bye. And I do feel like you need to recognize that. That is something that's part of the equation. I'm not saying you specifically. I'm saying you as a general public listening to the pod. He hasn't been good against the bye. And I talk about the preparation all the time with this head coach, and there's so many flaws with him. That's when you have more time to game plan for your opponent. That's when you should be your strongest. That's when you should have your best structure, and Doug Pederson hasn't done a good job. Now, the argument is when you look at Thursday night games, when you look at, things like that, well, Doug Pederson does a good job then. So on shorter rest, he does a good job. A longer rest, not the case. And by the way, have I even mentioned Carson Wentz's name to this point? Wow, shame on me. Carson Wentz needs to play better. I mean, sheesh. Yeah, Carson Wentz has clearly been an issue throughout how many weeks now? So I feel, you know what? No, Brodes. There's no reason to be hard on yourself for not really mentioning the name Carson Wentz to this point, because here's reality. Everybody knows. I don't need to sit here and stress Carson Wentz needing to play better football, because that's obvious, all right? That's a no-brainer. The kid has to perform at a better rate. He can't be thrown into double coverage. He can't be holding onto the ball. He can't be trying to escape the pocket and extend the play to the left and getting rocked. That's an obvious statement. We've all seen his poor, abysmal play. So this is all under the idea that Carson Wentz knows he needs to change, and this is under the idea that Carson Wentz does change when it comes to exploiting certain matchups. But at the same time, this is who he has been, and it goes on Doug Pederson and this coaching staff, Press Taylor, to drill it in him, because the kid flat out needs to play at a different level. Not just at a different level. He needs to be insanely better. Oh, hate thinking about what Carson Wentz has been to this point.
I don't see anything different about this Eagles-Giants matchup as the ones of recent past. I think this is another one that's going to go right down to the wire. And the Giants have been playing a little bit better. But, Hunter, I'm going to take your advice now as I watch the Eagles the rest of the year. And, they're not a good football team. They're going to be life and death to win this game, and there's very few wins the rest of the year that I honestly think they can get. My biggest question for this game, and maybe you can answer it, if Alshon Jeffrey is coming back, who's going out? And please don't tell me it's going to be either Travis Fulgham or Jalen Reagor.
I don't think it's going to be. I really don't. Now, I've heard some counterpoints to me saying that, and one specifically was, look at what Doug Pederson has done throughout his career. Jason Peters comes back. He goes to left tackle. When these players come back, these veteran players, they get their jobs back. They go back to where they were playing. So with Alshon Jeffrey, is that going to happen? Look, it's a results-based business, and there's just no way in hell that it's possible that Alshon Jeffrey is going to steal Travis Fulgham's spot. There's just no way. You mentioned what guy might come out. Maybe This is maybe where Hightower loses snaps, or, maybe Greg Ward loses snaps. Maybe some of these other guys loses snaps, but I can't imagine where Fulgham is losing like a significant amount of snaps for someone like Alshon Jeffrey. It might happen here or there based off of rest or whatever, and that's fine. It doesn't need to be 100% of the snaps for Fulgham, but it can't be a significant chunk, and I don't expect it to. I can't imagine them being that dumb, but I'm also talking about a coach who just needed 3 reporters to pretty much baby him into saying, Doug, don't agree with someone who's saying Foles should be here over Wentz. So I guess at the same time, I should probably understand that it's a possibility.
Hey, what's up, bros? My opinion on us coming out of this bye week, I think the Eagles can be good if Doug Pederson and Carson Wentz get better, because, a couple games that we had, if they would have been better, our record would have been better. But if Carson can, keep his composure, take what's given to him, if Doug can, stop going for these ridiculous 4th downs and 2-point conversions, we'll be better. Our wide receivers haven't been fumbling. Our wide receivers been kind of catching the ball. We had some drops with Hightower, but they've been okay. Our line been kind of pretty good. We're getting healthy. Our defense is we still do that little vanilla thing, the little vanilla defense on 4th and longs and all that I hate, or 3rd and longs that I hate. But we've been pretty good. Our secondary is ranked number 4 in the league or something like that. That's pretty good. So I think we could be pretty good this thing if Doug and Wentz just get it together.
Yeah, it definitely comes down to Doug and Carson. In terms of the defense, the sticks defense is what you're talking about. The D has been okay. It's been okay. There's been players like Darius Slay, Brandon Graham who stick out more than others, but as a whole, the defense has been all right. There's been moments early on. The Rams game I thought was bad. Moments in the Rams game was bad schematically from the meeting room. That's where that game was lost. Pittsburgh, personnel was a problem. Nate Gary, but there were some moments that were ugly there. But yes, I do think that this is a Doug and Carson game. They need to come out. They need to perform better than they have. Doug Pederson needs to have a way better game plan. That game plan and those calls against the Dallas Cowboys, that was the worst version of Doug Pederson I've ever seen in my damn life. It was atrocious. There was no sort of flow, and it was embarrassing. It needs to change, and that relates to Carson Wentz. And the way that I want to put this is when the Eagles played the Rams early in the year, right? Jared Goff is no special quarterback. He's a good quarterback. He's not special. He's not elite. He's not bad. He's not average. He's a good quarterback, all right? And the way that he was starting off the game, 8 for 8, 9 for 9, wide open guys, they were schemed open. And the way that the game was being called, it was perfect. And even with the way that Doug Pederson schemes it out early on with the scripted plays, they work. Carson knows who he's going to. He doesn't have to overthink things. He sees his target. He hits his target. He knows who the first read's going to be. The first set of plays, it's so magnificent. Do that more. Do that more. It works. Why go away from it? Why go to thinking on your feet if you don't need to? Script the damn plays. Script more of them. Because when the quarterback knows who he's going to and there's flow and there's rhythm in the play calls, it helps. It does. And right now, you need a quarterback, or you need your quarterback to get as much help as he possibly can, because he is lost mentally. He's lost confidence-wise. And you know what? I think one of the big reasons why that is because of the head coach on game day, before game day even happens, when it comes to the meeting rooms and game planning, and then also with the horrendous statements that the Stunad is saying to the media.
Hey, Rhodes, I wanted to talk about a game on Sunday. To be honest, this is probably going to be another very close game for the Eagles. Last time they barely squeaked out a win against the Giants, and hopefully they do it again. I don't have much trust in Carson Wentz and Doug Pederson going into this game. I would heavily feed Miles Sanders in this game. He's had breakout performances in the last 2 games he's played against the Ravens and the Steelers, 2 of the best run Ds in the whole NFL. So I just feed the rock to Miles. Again, trust Fulgham. Hopefully he can make plays. Hopefully the defense can make plays. Danny Dimes, not the best quarterback. But let's see what can happen.
I don't know how Doug Pederson is going to use Miles Sanders. I feel, well, just knowing the history of Doug Pederson, there's probably going to be times where he gets away from the run game. But knowing that he's coming back from that injury, I do feel there might be times where he's passive on Miles Sanders. And knowing Boston Scott's history against this team and knowing a couple games ago, boom, he had such an explosive night, maybe they do work in Boston Scott more than you would anticipate if this was a normal season of Miles Sanders being active and ready every single week.
Yo, bros, just wanted to give a few thoughts on Sunday's game. For me, the keys to the game are on the offensive side of the ball is obviously when the battle of the trenches. Miles Sanders is going to be back, so let's utilize him and actually utilize the run game for once. And let's not be afraid to throw the little giant killer Boston Scott in. And adding on to that, Carson Wentz needs to stop trying to force the play to happen and let the play develop. He needs to know that if the play is not there, to throw the ball away or maybe salvage a couple yards, run the ball back to the line of scrimmage, move on to the next play. And on defense, we need to, it's simple. Excuse me. We need to get pressure on Daniel Jones. We need to make sure he doesn't have time to throw the ball. Sterling Shepard burned us the last game. And if it wasn't for Ingram dropping that pass, that game would have been a loss. I really am not too sure that this Sunday's game is a guaranteed win. A lot of people are trying to say that this is going to be an easy win. The Giants are good. Well, guess what? They've competed with some teams the last couple of games.
They really have. They absolutely really have, and that's something that I pointed out earlier in the show. This Giants team is not going to be a walkover just because their record is what it is. And oh, by the way, if you look at the Eagles' record, it's not outstanding either. Darius Slayton and Shepard, yes, they're definitely pieces that can help that football team move the ball to their best of their ability. They definitely do struggle. You mentioned getting pressure on the quarterback. I also mentioned the defensive line winning their battle against the Giants' offensive line. That would ultimately put pressure on Daniel Jones, and knowing how he operates, there's probably a possibility of turning the ball over and giving the Eagles good field position, which will definitely help out this offense because they need as much help as they can possibly get with the quarterback that has been struggling. So I am excited for this matchup. It feels like it's been forever since the Eagles played a damn football game. Please, I need something new. I need something new to react to. I can't wait for Sunday. And it's a 1 o'clock game, which is such a difference maker for me. I need to let you know about my friends at DraftKings. DraftKings has brought their expertise to legal sports betting. It's a legitimate sports book based right here in the U.S., so you can rest assured that your funds are totally secure. DraftKings, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is safe, secure, and reliable. Deposit and withdrawal at your convenience. All new users have a chance to earn a sign-up bonus up to $1,000. Download the app and sign up using promo code BRODES. Check out all that they have to offer, including player props, live betting, and so much more. If sports books are not yet available in your state, don't forget about the DraftKings Fantasy app, which offers millions of dollars in total prizes every single week. And if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, crisis counseling and referral services can be accessed by calling 1-800-GAMBLER. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, best of luck, Eagles. Get that W. Please get that W. The Giants are due. The Giants are due for a win against the Eagles. Is this the time? If I was a man who had to give my opinion, which I am a man who has to give my opinion, I will say the Eagles win this football game 21-17. But they can totally lose this game. So if you can feel that I'm not that intense on picking them to win, well, yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at. I'm not that intense on picking them to win because I am nervous, as I should be. On paper, this and that, players coming back, offensive line. On paper, it's all there for you. It's all there for you to pick the Eagles, which is ultimately why I tend to lean that way. But this isn't going to last forever. This beating up on the Giants. There's going to be a time. Is the time going to be Sunday? Great question. We'll find out on Sunday. Thank you all so much for listening, and I will see you next time.